Hi everybody, I'm Cami Herrera. Today I'm going to be doing a transportation safety training, and over this training I'll be providing you with some valuable information so that you can have a better understanding of child safety seat laws and American Academy of Pediatric recommendations. Also, we're going to talk about some ways to reduce risk while transporting children in childcare. So stick along. We're going to begin by talking about motorized vehicle accidents. So, we cannot prevent accidents always, but we can take steps so that we can be as safe as possible while we're operating, riding in, or transporting children in a motorized vehicle. Motorized vehicles are the number one single leading cause of death in ages 1 to 24 years old. Most of the reasons are actually because children or people actually are not in seatbelts, or they weren't restrained properly. Sometimes they're in a seatbelt or they're in a car seat that doesn't fit or isn't put on properly. The shoulder strap is under the arm, or there's more than one person inside of that one seatbelt. They're not in a properly fitted car seat. They're wearing coats and many other various reasons. Roughly 2,000 children under the age of 16 die every single year from a motor vehicle accident. So, how can we be safe when transporting young children, especially our childcare babies, from place to place? Whether you take them to school, you pick them up, you bring them on field trips. How can we be safe while we're transporting? And how can we be safe for our own kids and our own family as well as ourselves? So you may have seen some of these types of car seats before. It's important to know if you should be using a convertible, a infant, a booster, or a high back booster according to their age, weight, and height. So also it's really important to know if they should be rear or forward facing. Definitely talking with the parents and then following the instruction manual to make the best choice. So generally you're going to see these for infants about 0 to 1, and that's rear facing. These are convertible seats. They're rear facing also, or they can turn forward facing after the age of 2 as according to the Academy of Pediatrics recommendations. And then you'll usually put your child in a booster around 4. Proper car seat usage and seatbelt usage helps save lives. Is the safest place for the child in the back seat in a car seat, properly restrained into the seatbelt and also with their harness. Don't place infants in the front seat because it's near the airbags, and when the airbags, you know, come out, it could hit the baby seat. So never put your child in a jacket or a bulky blanket because the straps have a hard time getting onto their body and it leaves a lot of space. Always know your manufacturer regulations, supervise while your child is in the vehicle, and make sure that you're wearing your seatbelt so that you can be a great example. Okay, guys, I apologize for looking down so much, but this is a live PowerPoint, so my hands are on the keyboard and I'm making sure I'm changing slides and everything like that. So about 2 years ago, I think it was 2018, the American Academy of Pediatrics did an update and a revision on the recommendation of car safety seats. Now they're recommending that your child is in a rear-facing child seat until they max out on their weight and height of that actual car seat. So definitely check your manufacturer rules, get your little pamphlet out, and make sure that you know what your age and height and weight limit is for that car seat for that child. It's so much safer to keep them rear facing as long as possible because when you do, in the case of an accident, their head, neck, and spine will be supported by the back of the car seat. It'll absorb most of the crash forces and it'll protect the vulnerable parts of their body. So when they ride forward facing, their bodies are all restrained in the harness, but their head and neck are so heavy and they don't have the strength in their neck yet. When it's forcibly thrown forward, it can actually break their neck away from their skull. So, which basically internally decapitates them. So we want to make sure that they're as safe as possible, and keeping them as safe as you can in the car means putting them rear facing for as long as possible. And I actually even have a little diagram here. I'm going to highlight it. As you can see, this picture of this little dummy right here, um, he went flying forward because of the force from the accident. And so all of that force is actually right here on his neck and spine. Not very many people survive that kind of injury. I think it was about 30%, and the rest of them usually pass away. So we definitely want to keep our kids as safe as possible in the car while they're riding in a vehicle. So, what are the regulations for childcare licensing? I know a lot of times people just really want to make sure they're not getting write-ups when they're transporting. So, childcare license regulates all the transportation provided by or for the childcare home or center of the children in care. That means if you're taking them to their house, if you're taking them to school, if you're taking them on a field trip, or anything like that, and you're transporting them in your childcare vehicle, childcare licensing will be regulating that. Childcare license does not regulate the type of vehicle that you use, but it does have to be a vehicle that's maintained in safe operating condition. You could use a small school bus, a large school bus, any other type of vehicle that's made for general purposes like a station wagon, a minivan, a passenger van, and so forth. Make sure you're taking these safety precautions when you have daycare kids with you. Make sure you're unloading and loading them at a curb or in a protected parking lot or a driveway, like in your driveway of your house, in your driveway of your business, or that you're pulling up in front of the school to let the kids in and out. Don't ever allow a child to cross the street at any time before a child enters or exits the vehicle unless they have a grown up with them. So make sure you're holding their hands, that you're walking them across the street. And please, 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 if you don't do anything else, make sure you're accounting for all the children and never leaving a child in a vehicle. So if you're a childcare home or if you're a childcare center, you must follow the minimum standards that are set in place in the state of Texas. Caregivers and the driver have to wear a safety belt. If you're a grown up in the vehicle, you must be properly restrained with a safety belt, a seat belt, at all times. Make sure that you're putting your safety belt on before you start the vehicle because this is a minimum standard and it is a violation if they catch you not putting on your seatbelt. So before you even start that, put that seatbelt on and make sure that everybody else is restrained and then start that baby up and you can go. So all adults in the vehicle have to be in a seatbelt. Can parents provide a passenger safety seat for their child? Minimum Standard says yes, they can provide a safety system for their child if they're being transported. And if the equipment is appropriate and can be properly secured in the vehicle, you can use the equipment according to manufacturer's instructions. So if you're taking a field trip, if you're a childcare home and you're taking a field trip and you only have one car seat, ask your parents to bring the car seats for their children. Um, then make sure you're following the manufacturer instructions and put it in your vehicle and you're good to go. This may seem like common sense, but it is in the minimum standards. May I place more than one person in each safety belt? No, only one person, only one child, only one grown up, only one person can be in a seat belt and in a seat. So make sure that if you don't have enough space for everybody, that you're not transporting children. Make sure that you ensure that whoever is driving, whoever the caregiver is, has instructions for how you're going to handle an emergency in case it breaks down your vehicle or in case you get into an accident or what the evacuation procedures are, how you supervise the children, and how can you contact help. So make sure you have an emergency plan for transport. And even if it's just you in your home, like a child care home, and you don't have any other caregivers, make sure you have a clear set plan of action in case there's an emergency. Um, as you know, emergencies are never planned, but it's better to be safe than sorry and know exactly what you're going to do. If it does happen, then something happening and you have no clue what to do or how to get the kids in a safe spot. So make sure you have an emergency plan for transportation and make sure that all your caregivers know about it. So can a child ride in a safety belt, basically a seat belt, with a shoulder harness but no car seat? So here's the rules for that. A child can ride in a safety belt with a shoulder harness if it goes across their chest, not across their face. So if it's across their face, it's probably not a good fit. Not across their neck. If it has to be tucked under their arm, it's not a good fit. It should fit low across the child's thighs or the top of their legs and never across the stomach area. A lot of vital organs are here in a child's stomach. Their spleen, their liver, um, their, their digestive system. And so in the case of a car accident, if they're not properly restrained in a safety seat and they're just in a seatbelt, all of the force is going to go into their soft internal organs. So make sure that you never put a child that can't fit into a shoulder safety belt without a booster seat or a car seat. Never put a shoulder belt under the child's arm or behind the back either. I've even brought that up a couple of times on this training. If it doesn't fit, then you need to have a booster seat. So I'm going to go over both sets of minimum standards. I'm going to go over the minimum standards for childcare home first, and then after I'm done with this slide, I'll go into the childcare center minimum standards. Both of them are very similar. Here's the specific equipment and info that's needed when you're transporting children in childcare. So this is a childcare home. You definitely have to have a list of the children that you have transported in your car at the moment. You have to have emergency medical, transport, and treatment authorization forms for all of the child's being transported. So if you have a binder that you use, grab that binder and bring it with you. Parents' names, telephone numbers, and emergency numbers for each child being transported. Like I said, if you have a binder with their information, grab that binder or do a duplicate of what you already have and just leave it in your car. You have to have a current driver's license if you are driving it, and you have to have it on your person while you're transporting the children. In case of emergency, you must have a communication device, a cellular phone, a two-way radio, or some other way to get help and to communicate with a emergency backup if something was to happen when you're on the road. So things are a little bit different for a child care center. It's similar, but a little bit different. You definitely have to have a list of the children being transported, emergency medical transport and treatment forms for each child. You need to have the child care center's name, your director's name or permit holder's name, a child care center telephone number, and it has to be either displayed visibly on the inside passenger compartment or in the glove compartment, or the child care center's name and telephone number must be clearly listed and visible on the outside of the vehicle. So a lot of centers already have their name and stuff on the outside of the vehicle. For instance, it could be, Miss Kamie's Little Learners, and I already have that on the side of my, on my van, so that I don't have to put that in the glove department. And make sure you have your telephone numbers and names of parents and emergency people in case there is an emergency. You have to get contact with emergency backups for those children. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher approved by local or state fire marshal, and it has to be secured in a passenger compartment and accessible to adult occupants, and also a first aid kit. So as you can see, that's one of the differences between a home and a center is the fire extinguisher. As a home, you don't have to have a fire extinguisher unless you choose to in your vehicle, but when you're in a center, you definitely do. And the driver must have a current driver's license that's on their person. And in case of emergency, you definitely have to have a way to contact someone, either a two-way radio or a cellular device like your cell phone. But who doesn't have a cell phone now? So make sure you have it, but please don't text and drive while you have children. Make sure it's in a place that you can get to in case of an emergency, but otherwise put away. Okay, this is one more thing for my childcare centers. If you have a passenger van that is 8 seats or more, the 8, the 10, and the 12, and the 16 seat vehicles, make sure you have a child safety alarm installed in your vehicle so that it can prompt the driver to inspect the vehicle before they're leaving to make sure no children are left inside. And also the mini buses and the full-size buses as well. This is the minimum standards, so you definitely need to have it so that you can prevent violations in your center and to keep the children safe. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to take your quiz, and if you have any questions, you can contact me at 817-901-1039 or at the email attached. Have a great night, and thank you again.